Okay, good evening, everyone. At least it is evening here in Finland, and for some of you, the next day, and so forth. We do continue our USA Vigil. The purpose is to participate esoterically in what DK says, Master DK says, will be the battle for democracy being fought out in the United States. He doesn't say that it applies only to the United States. It's for democracy in general, the hierarchical form of government particularly. And let's see, today is the first. So we have about 50 days until Inauguration Day. And
Okay,
oh,
here it is.
wait. Who is speaking? Let's make sure that we don't we have our mute on, okay? And also let's make sure that we have our video off, okay? Please assure yourself of that, otherwise you'll be breaking into the meditation and so forth. So 50 days approximately remain until Inauguration Day. And then we'll see. Until that time, with possible threats of all kinds against the natural process of a free and rightly managed election, we have an abiding danger. It can even lead to war as a distraction. There are many movements in the Middle East right now, which, including the assassination of the leading physicists involved with Iran's atomic energy project. Now, this may be a hidden provocation to plunge the whole area into war. We cannot say, but it has a certain reeking about it. And the possibility of that kind of distraction can bring the declaration of martial law, in which all of the normal processes of government would be abrogated. So many are the possibilities which require our ongoing vigilance. Yesterday, Tuya led us in some very interesting material. It was full moon day in Sagittarius. I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. And we'll continue a little bit along that line, since we're still in the 5-day period, the Sagittarian 5-day period, in which the full moon holds the central place. But we're still very much in the distribution phase of the Sagittarian work. So we will have a kind of it's a kind of a meditation, and we'll use some of the material that we found in the earlier presentation yesterday. I would like to emphasize something that I think is very important in our work today. All of this is done with the intention of aligning with the head of the spiritual hierarchy of the planet. And that is the one we call the Christ. And so let us, as a group, begin our work by imaginatively aligning with the great Lord. And we know that wherever two or three are gathered in his name, there his pervasive presence will be. He said, I am the light of the world. That's how he identifies. He could have said, I am the love of the world. And that seems more and more obvious as the manner in which he identifies. And in his latest emergence, reappearance, he will carry so much of the divine will. So we want to cultivate in ourselves the mind as it is in Christ. And really it means the psyche as it is in Christ. And these are the representatives of two great streams of force. No one is perfect, of course, but the lines of demarcation are very clear. Says the Christ, I come to bring not peace, but the sword, and it is, in this case, the sword of discrimination, of that which aligns with the angel of the presence, humanity's angel of the presence, and that which aligns with the very much presently unredeemed personality of humanity. These two men are the leaders, but there's a lot more to it. The real danger is for the emergence of that which in the 1930s emerged in Germany. It was emerging in Italy even earlier, but not so severely. And it emerged in Japan. The millions were swept by an adulation for a leader whose moral fiber hardly existed. A leader who was representative of that which is selfish and aggressive, within humanity. It happened in Germany. I don't know how many of you have seen the films of the Nuremberg rallies in the middle 30s, but they were great magical, overpowering events. And the psyches of the people assembled had no chance to resist that kind of power when they were gathered together in that way. They were indoctrinated. They were oppressed without their knowing it by the evil forces. And so with the other Axis nations, but particularly and most magically, and most related to glamour per se, uh, was Germany of the time. How much has changed, of course. And the fourth ray begins to come in a higher and more harmonious way and begins to live up to the great motto, I preserve. But look at the hysteria of unthinking people. This is the danger. Now, the danger is acute in the United States, but it can spread. It can spread. And if there is not success in beating it back at this time, it will spread. And the unthinking hysteria will grow. Yes, the souls are younger. And DK tells us that the younger souls did not come into the United States until recently, and that was written 100 years ago. And so they lack the discrimination necessary to really preserve a democracy. Benjamin Franklin was asked about the best form of government, and similarly, he said, a republic, of course, if you can keep it. And that is the danger, because there are always those who will strive to take power into their own selfish grip. And the people assemble on the streets in for and against, and lack of control has usually swept them all. Now here's a counter rally, and that we can understand. Against the pronounced materialistic trends. It all depends on the goal of the two streams. One is the materialistic and ideological enslavement of humanity, if the final truth be known, and the other, the liberation of the consciousness of humanity. Here It didn't happen by accident. The 1960s were an amazing phenomena, and the era of the forerunner began then and is ending in about 4 years. 60 years of the forerunner. But what made all this happen? This consciousness revolution, which one strives hard to recognize anymore. And it was a very occult factor. The Buddha had left his vestures, and we would have to call them the personality of the triad, Atma Buddhi Manas, for the use of the Christ in his forthcoming arduous task. And the Christ took those vehicles over in 1966, we are told. And that, if we could realize, was a tremendous impulse toward the awakening of consciousness and the flourishing of the love and wisdom energy. Let's think about that for a moment. Now, the Tibetan has told us, or writing then, he says, the day of opportunity is now with us. It was still part of a second ray cycle, the love wisdom synthetic ray indigo cycle, but it will not always be with us. The day of opportunity will not always be with us. And as those among the Nazis and fascists and would-be samurai reincarnate again, as no doubt many of them have, the opportunity is put under pressure. And so now, let us say in the United States, the second ray soul and the fanatical sixth ray personality represented by many sixth ray souls that were found among the fascists and the Nazis and the would-be samurais of old. Those tendencies fight against the second ray soul, which will be the soul ray eventually of all humanity. That's what we are witnessing. And ground zero at the moment is the United States. A different group is coming in, and there is more fear and less development. There was a huge second ray impulse with the taking over of the vestures of the Buddha. Consciousness expanded, and many mature souls were with us. But were they effective in the long run? Were some of us who are older, were we effective in the long run? And now the battle between the angel and the dweller. Again the battle. A slowly developing situation with the forces of love, wisdom, understanding what's at stake, and seeking emergence into the Aquarian age in the right way. Now the people long oppressed and unforgivably enslaved. Their humanity unrecognized by the prevailing mentality of the time. Now they demand their rights. The black people, the Native American people, other minorities who have been oppressed. And it's coming. But there is resistance even now, after all this. And one of the streams of force would simply keep it the way it is, with voter suppression and the deprivation of the will of the people, especially people in the minorities or who are identified as minority groups. It's a very primitive psychology to always alienate or see as alien the other. That is the promise of America, though, that in this great melting pot, there will be an eventual harmonious inclusiveness. DK tells us about the coming uniformity of the sixth root race. It's a long root race, 10 million years, and we don't know when, but the power of harmony will be there because the Buddhic plane is the plane of harmony. That is the energy which accords with the sixth root race. And instead of all of this diversity of types, physically speaking, there will be a uniformity of type, he tells us. A kind of humanity of a uniform golden color, not shiny in that sense, but of a golden hue, eventually harmonized. Because the fifth ray is the ray ruling the law of cleavages. The law of cleavages, dividing one thing from another. It will not be the case in the sixth root race, which in a way begins in 2,000 years with the sixth subrace coming in now, the sixth of the five. So all of these movements to give people their rights, long deprived. I mean, who knows the karma here? None of us know it. We don't know where we've been. No doubt we've been born in all the races of man. And as DK says, no one is without sin. And every one of us have been part of the grievous behavior of humanity over millions of years. And now, the COVID, a universal pandemic would be planned, we were told, by Sanat Kumara. Is this it? It certainly seems like it could be. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. Something to force us back to essentials. A number of students of esotericism have speculated wisely on the reason for this, in one way, horrible epidemic, and in another way, leading us more and more towards the Buddhic consciousness after many battles. But it is a terrible thing, and in one way, and we are asked to care for the other person. This is not just about our own desires, our own comfort. This is altruism, the need to think of the health of others. And it's not just the physical health, it's the psychological health. And it's not just health, it's a whole question of values. Will materialistic fulfillment prevail? Or will the welfare of humanity, psychological, physical, spiritual, be the first consideration? And the battle is being fought out now. In the story of Cain and Abel, the God of the Old Testament, he asks Cain about his brother Abel. And Cain answers, "Am I my brother's keeper?" As if to say, I'm not responsible for his whereabouts, his condition. But of course, he was. And so are we. We are our brother's keeper. We are. And that is not something that is well realized among, let's face it, the younger souls that just haven't had the kind of experience over millions of years that others of their brothers have had, others of their sisters have had. We alternate, man, woman, sometimes long time in the male body, sometimes long time in the female body, but basically, if you want to know who the human being is, you look at the causal body, regardless of what the outer instrument may be. And so in these Sagittarian times, we really have to look ahead. toward the goal of a harmonized, sharing, peaceful humanity adapting rightly to conditions on this planet and preserving the planet on its path to the higher initiations, the vision must reveal, the Sagittarian vision must reveal how things should be. And our idealism, ever rising and inclusive, and the sub-ray of the great indigo ray must become ever more soul responding, so that the goal we see is not selfish, it's for the welfare of everybody. Underneath it all, the triangles are moving to change our planet towards sacredness. It will be yet a while, but movements are needed now. And we who work esoterically have to have these great visions in mind, and maybe revelation will come, which is far more real than simply what the vision can present. The solar angel of the nation, the United States, is attempting to suffuse the country with the indigo blue, the great synthetic ray, not only of the planet with its second ray soul, but of the entire solar system. Let us align with that saving energy. And when we work, whether outwardly or these days more likely with effectiveness interiorly, let us align with the angel of the presence for humanity, inspired by the great solar angel, the Buddhic solar angel of humanity. These are big issues now. We're not just dealing with politics as usual. And when we find hierarchical helpers, like the Lord of Civilization, the Master Rakutsi, the former Comte de Saint-Germain, we seek to help them, however tiny our help may be, in their projects. If they, or such a one as the Mahachohan, seeks for the harmonization and unification of the United States, psychically and spiritually, then we support that. And if he seeks for the United States of Europe, the so-called European Union, then we support that. One can imagine even the Russian Federation of many countries, that is of interest to him as well. It has not been stated what his relationship is, but we support this federation of Russia, that it achieve harmony and the right expression of its overarching soul. And through the darkness of the personality period through which we are passing, something better is on its way, much better. Envisioned by the Christ consciousness, the mind, the psyche, as it is in Christ. A great symbol being the Christ over Rio in South America. We seem far away from this all-embracing possibility, but it's not that far. Because, as Master DK has said, the heart of humanity is sound. And this is the symbol of what can take place in the Aquarian age, for which we are working. We're working for the right entry of humanity into the Aquarian age, not a delayed entry full of unnecessary suffering. This is the meditative mudra, the Dhyani mudra. And more we open our consciousness meditatively to the higher points of tension, which will overcome the dweller on the threshold, which has been responsible in its reaction to the good for the wars of the warring 20th century and the psychological wars, even verging on physical wars, which continue now into the 21st century. And all the people that are thinking in such a narrow way, that need not persist. Those hysterical mobs of people adulating one who misleads them, and a general philosophy that simply uses them because they are gullible. The education must reach them. And each one of us take a responsibility, a little responsibility relatively, but it can still be of use to bring forward the educational process, so that from those screaming mobs who have lost their mind, there may emerge those who can think without the driving force of karma prejudicing their thinking. So let us seek for the transformation of mass consciousness, because that's what we're witnessing now. Mass consciousness whipped up into a frenzy like a storm. And if the Christ consciousness can bring the three centers of government in the United States into mutually supportive harmony, then the consciousness of the people can be healed. And the mind as it is in the true Christ, not the theological Christ produced by the rigid, narrow, concrete mind, but the true Christ. If that mind can affect millions more, then the healing can come, and it will be a global healing, not just the United States, because this problem is much bigger than that to be found in one country, however much the immediate crisis may be there. We will together sound great invocation number 2. We are dealing with serious matters, and the stakes are very high. And so we call for assistance wisely, not in terms of worship, but in terms of recognizing the need. Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. And so let there be justice in the United States. Let it conform to the higher meaning of Saturn, bringing in the divine plan and indicating the law. A higher law, scrupulously followed in the executive branch, in the legislative branch, and in the judicial branch of government. This is like the presence of Saint Michael, interpreted as Saturn, in the midst of all the troubled, frictional, warring ideals, one leading towards real salvation and the other leading towards delay and disintegration. So we imagine the presence of the warrior, Saint Michael, leading this battle. He is also associated with the sun itself, leading this battle so the good emerges. The law and the blazing power of the good. And in the midst of it all, the sevenfold wheel of divine love, which the Tibetan gave to us, the light, the divine love of the seven rays spinning upon themselves throughout the nation, finding a place for every ashram and every willing individual in relation to every ashram, finding a place for everybody to work within the field of divine love wisdom. And as these things occur, the United States can live up to its motto, I light the way, in many ways, but especially the psycho-spiritual way. And the other countries, all mutually interdependent and cooperative, can find the way to express their mottos. Every time a nation expresses its soul, the other nations benefit. I light the way. We continue tomorrow. Same time, same link. And we are grateful for your meditative presence. All of the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. From St. Francis. Okay, friends, lots of love, many blessings. We start tomorrow with our Ask program in the morning. It will be our normal triangles work, and then that's 6 a.m. GMT, and then 6 p.m. we'll get into the science of triangles, and we'll carry on according to the calendar that you have been sent. We send our love, and all of us on the communications group wish you the very best. And thank you. Uh, we persist. We still persist.